Welcome to Buck Brief, everybody. Let's talk about the young boy who was defamed as racist for wearing team colors for the Kansas City Chiefs and what his family's doing about it now. Also, the economy is better than the peasants think, according to the Wall Street Journal, the New York Times, and all of them. I'll explain how this is going. And then we have the collapse. They're calling it a collapse. I call it the only smart thing you could possibly do, of the bipartisan border bill and what happens now and what we've learned from all of this. But, usually I don't start with anything that is a sports related story because, look, I'll just tell you, I think that this country has people who are too fixated on sports. I've said this on radio. I will say this now. I think that sports are like video games or movies. It's fine. It's a nice relaxation and kind of escapism, but it's not important. That's the part of it that it doesn't matter if your team wins the big game or not. Oh, I know. People are going to get so upset at me. You're not on the team. Well, maybe some of you listening to this are, because we have some people that play professional sports who listen to the radio show. But generally speaking, you're not on the team, and it's just meant for entertainment. And if it's something that entertains you, great. The same way that if somebody wanted to sit around and listen to classical music CDs or read Agatha Christie novels or whatever, I'd say great. That's fine. But when I walk into the gym, which I haven't done enough lately, it's why I feel and look somewhat like the Stay Puft Marshmallow Man over here. But I'm writing a book. That's my excuse. I'm writing the book, and so I don't have time. But when I go into the gym and I see all these, it's like 10 a.m. on a Tuesday, and all these TVs are just different channels of people talking about sports. I'm like, this is the dumbest thing I've ever seen. What a giant waste of time. And people can say, oh, well, you talk about politics all day. I talk about life all day. Talk about what's happening in the world. Talk about things that matter to people's day-to-day lives and ideas that if we lose in the battlefield of ideas, if we lose in general on these issues, really bad things can happen to all of us, whether we're talking about COVID or the border or national security stuff in Ukraine and fighting the jihadists and all these things matter. I mean, you can argue about how much of an impact any one of us can have on it, but at least they're important. I don't find the big game. I know we're here for the Super Bowl soon. It's fine. It's fun, but it's like going to watch a movie. If you view it like a movie, all right, I saw it, fine, whatever, that's great. But if you spend 5 days talking about it all day afterwards, that I don't understand. Okay, I know it's a multi-billion-dollar business, and I'm the weirdo. Fine. But back to this young boy. He's 9 years old, a Holden Armenta, and he had on his face, red paint on one side, black paint on the other, because he was at a Kansas City Chiefs game, and there's a photo of him, and he's got the Kansas City Chiefs headdress on, the whole thing, and a Deadspin writer, a writer named Caron Phillips. He's a black man. He's a writer for Deadspin. He said that this was racist against both Native Americans and black people, defaming a 9-year-old boy. Turns out the 9-year-old boy's parents are themselves Native American. I think at least one of them is a member of a Native American tribe. But put that aside for a moment. Think of the mentality, and you see this with really unhappy and malevolent leftists, where you would go after a 9-year-old kid. You're paid to illuminate things. You're paid to write and be in the realm of ideas. I mean, I know it's Deadspin. It's garbage, right? But Deadspin is an awful website. It's like HuffPo and Deadspin and all these other left-wing, Jezebel. I think that one shut down. These are trash websites that attract trash people. But put that aside for a moment. Think about the mentality of going after a 9-year-old. Now, his family's suing, and he may bankrupt Deadspin, and I hope that they do, because Deadspin's contribution to the world is what? To write sneering left-wing commentary on culture and sports. What is this doing for anybody? And they're allowed. I'm not saying the government should shut them down. They have a First Amendment right, but they also have to abide by the same First Amendment rules as everybody else, where you can't just try to ruin the life of a 9-year-old boy. Think about this. Can't we all agree that when it comes to media commentary, 9-year-olds are off limits for media commentary, right? You're not going to attack a 9-year-old. No, but the wokeness can't do that, because whatever works, right? The woke left will go after anyone of any age as long as it advances their political agenda. Because really, wokeness is a psychosis. Wokeness is a psychosis. And once you understand that it's really a mental illness masquerading as a political ideology, you understand why they would say nasty things about a 9-year-old boy. I also remember when Greta Thunberg was doing interviews with CNN and she was like 17. And some of us were saying, hey, maybe adults, like I was saying this, maybe adults shouldn't listen to what a 17-year-old has to say about climate change a few years ago. And they're all like, why are you bashing a child? And no one's bashing the child. It's just the adults who listen to her are morons. And they are. And of course, CNN, they've got like Anderson Cooper and Jake Tapper. Greta, tell us about things. It's ridiculous. But anyway. Now let's talk a little bit about what they're going to say about the economy. Anyway, I hope that I meant to say this. Holden Armenta is. I hope his college fund is more than set after this one, and he's living large on Deadspin's money for a long, long time because they could have ruined this kid's life. He could have been the kid who was a racist at the football game. That's what they know that they have that power. They can do that to somebody, and that they would do that in this instance. Just goes to show you. I mean. I would never mock a 9-year-old for political purposes, okay? Never would do it. Never occur to me to do something like that. It's sick. It's for weirdos, but the left is full of weirdos. And they write for a lot of magazines, newspapers, online magazines, websites. So we'll get into more of that here. But first up, there's not a day that goes by without someone speculating on how artificial intelligence is just going to change the world we live in. Just a couple days ago, somebody wrote an article suggesting that thousands of Hollywood animators could be out of work in short order. I mean, this is making massive changes. The impact that AI will have on many industries is already on its way, as are the opportunities to realize a positive return if you choose to invest carefully. Tech expert Colin Tedards believes this is the beginning of a new era that could make you rich. Colin has been watching the markets with rapt attention. When the stock market hit rock bottom at the end of 2022, he recommended shares of a top software company, speculating that the upside of that company was still there. This software company is up over 200% since then. Anyone who listened to Colin had a chance to more than double their money in less than a year. Now he's recommending a new AI company he says could do even better. And he's found a way for you to profit from this new AI project. Go to newaiproject.com to learn more. That's newaiproject.com, newaiproject.com, paid for by Brownstone Research. So this Wall Street Journal piece, why Americans are so down on a strong economy. Many feel their long-term financial security is vulnerable to wide-ranging social and political threats. Let me read you a little bit of this Wall Street Journal piece. Clayton Wiles, a truck driver in North Carolina, earns about 20% more than 3 years ago. Christine Funk, a nurse in Ohio, has won steady pay raises, built retirement savings, and owns her home. Alfredo Arguello, opened a restaurant outside Nashville when the pandemic hit, now owns a second one and employs close to 50 people. Ask any of them about the state of the American economy, and the gloom surfaces. Unstable is how Arguello describes it. Said Funk, even though I'm okay right now, there's a sense it could all go away in a second. There's a striking disconnect between the widely shared pessimism among Americans and measures that show the economy is actually robust. Okay, well, let's get into some of this for a second. First of all, you're going to hear a lot of this from Democrats. A little surprising to see this in the Wall Street Journal. A lot of this from Democrats, though, that the economy is so good the peasants just don't know it. Here's the fundamental problem. The cost of stuff has gone up a lot. And the debt is entirely unsustainable on its current trajectory. 33, soon to be $34 trillion. And people know that. And they understand that the financial alchemy that has been, at the forefront since the 2008 crisis is shaky and everything could change very rapidly. And they also see that the government now is dictating more about the economy or more about the markets, and the markets are dictating about government. I think that's very concerning. And there's also a sense of real anxiety about the future. Now, part of this, I will say, is anxiety sells. Anxiety sells in the media for sure. I always remember when Michael Crichton, it was brilliant. He was such an underrated thinker. Maybe I'm just one of the few remaining Michael Crichton super fans out there now, but because I loved his novels growing up as a kid. And his novels were really the first time, Michael Crichton and then Tom Clancy, the first time that I ever I had my parents buy me books that weren't for school, and I would rather read those books than watch any TV show. Or I was just like, oh, I can't wait to get back to that, the next chapter. And that really, a light went off in my head. It turned me into a lifelong, the term voracious reader maybe gets thrown around a lot. I fall asleep every night reading a book. I fall asleep every night reading, pretty much, unless I'm so exhausted that I just am out when I hit the pillow. But I fall asleep every night reading. Usually I get through a chapter or two and then I'll pass out. But reading is so very important, so profoundly necessary and useful for your life. And, Michael Crichton. Sorry, why was I talking Michael Crichton? Author of Jurassic Park and Congo and Sphere and Rising Sun and Andromeda Strain. And, because he said that if you want to get people's attention at a cocktail party, be a catastrophist. And he said, not only that, if you want to get them angry at you, challenge the catastrophist. I'm paraphrasing here, but tell them everything's actually going to be okay. People are, the brain, the fear center of the brain. What is it? The amygdala, right? Yeah. The amygdala, the lizard brain, right? Fight or flight. You tickle that part of the brain, you got people's attention right away. And with the economy, what really always sells is catastrophism. Catastrophism is what sells. And also in politics, horrible things are going to happen. A lot of horrible things will happen. We're not going to be around for a lot of those horrible things, though. It'll happen so far into the future that we won't even know. So why are we worrying about it? But you see, even this, people would think this is a boring monologue, telling you that mostly, if you're making good decisions in your day-to-day life, things are going to be okay. What you have is the transference of people's anxiety. The anxiety should be, who am I? What am I doing? How do I treat people? How am I productive? What choices am I making? Anxiety around that, not unhealthy levels of anxiety, but, a concern around those issues is absolutely a good thing. Be thinking about that. Be really focused on obsessing on leading the best life you can lead is a good thing. But what you have is a lot of people who are obsessed about, the great collapse is coming, and this is, it gets clicks, it gets attention, but unless you have some kind of a way to address this, I bring up the debt because I do think politically we need to do something about it. I think we actually need to tackle this, but people don't want to hear that quite yet. And so that's why I think that there's a greater sense of the economy is worse than it really is for some people, because everyone who wants attention is always going to tell you the economy is really bad. Now, that said, the economy isn't very good, so I think I disagree with the Wall Street Journal's take here. But because just flatly prices are really high and low unemployment, the way they gauge inflation is garbage. So, yeah, the numbers say the economy is pretty good, but the numbers are trash themselves. They take energy and food out of the way that they assess inflation. I mean, the basket, right, of items, that's nonsense. And you look at, labor participation, that's not nearly where it should be. So just the unemployment figures, there's all kinds of problems. How have you been looking and how long you've been looking, and all people fall off. And so the economy's not very good. And that's the truth. All right. The Tunnel to Towers Foundation supports America's greatest heroes. These are service members and first responders who die or are severely injured in the line of duty and homeless veterans. We owe a debt of gratitude to these heroes. The Foundation's Gold Star, Fallen First Responder, Smart Home, and Homeless Veteran programs honor the sacrifices made for us by the men and women who risked their lives and bodies for our country and our communities. The Foundation's Never Forget programs engage people in 9/11 remembrance across America with over 80 runs, walks, and climbs a year and dozens of golf outings and barbecues. Tunnel to Towers 9/11 Institute educates kids in kindergarten through 12th grade about America's darkest day while helping our nation keep its vow to never forget. More than 95 cents of every dollar you donate to Tunnel to Towers goes to its programs. Never forget 9/11 or the sacrifices of our country's greatest heroes. Join me in donating $11 a month to Tunnel to Towers at t2t.org. That's t2t.org. Then just the final thing here. Republicans, this was the headline of Daily Mail, which if you listen to me enough, you know that I really like the Daily Mail, except for all the British royal family nonsense that nobody should care about in this country, or really any country. But Republicans officially tanked their own $118 billion border security bill. Conservative senators tear into Mitch McConnell as GOP package unravels in just 72 hours after months of negotiations. This was the best possible outcome for Republicans, given that they never should have gone forward with this in the first place. All this bill did was give the talking points. This whole move was the most obvious Democrat sleight of hand. It was just to give Democrats this talking point that Republicans are the ones who refuse to fix the border. And Democrats, the Biden administration, they're the ones that have kicked it wide open. They're the ones who have destroyed it. So I'm glad that this is not going forward. The bill is not going forward, but, it never should have gone this far. Republicans should be unified on this. But there's a lot of Republicans who just don't understand. They don't see what's going on in a way that makes them feel like there's a real problem with the future of the country. And I was talking before about catastrophism. If this border situation continues, America is going to dissolve. It's the truth. We're not going to be the country that we were because we'll be a lawless country with rapidly changing demographics. Assimilation will be completely overwhelmed. And what will America be? I mean, just think about it this way. If it doesn't matter who's here, if we imported 300 million Chinese, which we could do, there are enough of them, right? There's over 1 billion people in China. Let's say 300 million people from China came here. Is it still America? They're all speaking Mandarin. They all have a very different sense of priorities and life and culture and historical attachments and language. And if you import 300 million Chinese, okay, you say, well, that we're not doing that. Yeah, well, we've imported like 30 million illegals. It's a lot, in addition to the legal immigration that's in this country. So I think it's a big deal, personally. I really do. And I don't think it's catastrophism because it is a catastrophe. So Republicans didn't step right on the bear trap this time. Well, they kind of did. Maybe they stepped in the coyote snare. But we got to watch them. They'll never miss an opportunity. Thanks for hanging. Shields high.